The little boy said, mice. What is the plural of goose? Little boy said, geese. What is the plural of baby? And the little boy said, twins. Why do judges stand on their heads to turn things over in their minds? And the teacher asked the class, what were the Poles doing in Russia? This is in history class. What were the Poles doing in Russia in 1940? And the little girl answered, holding up the telephone wires. And a man standing, waiting for a bus, asked the person next to him, do you know how long the next bus is? And the person next to him said, about 25 feet. And the fireman was lecturing to the class, the second graders, and trying to teach them about fire prevention. And he said to the class, what would you do if your clothes caught on fire? And the little girl said, I would not put them on. Folks, the first bulletin is that William J. Giacomo is a cheater, a judge in the village court of Port Chester. William J. Giacomo is a cheater and a liar and a thief. And here's a warrant signed by him. And what is left? There's a cross out here too. So what is left is to picket him and sue him. Now we evicted Kasari, and here's a notice from the city marshal. Now notice when this was received. It was received by us on the 17th of May, and it says here Franklin and Glendora, and Franklin is misspelled. Please take notice as per warrant to evict executed on May the 5th, 2000. All furniture and personal belongings will be removed from this apartment by the City Marshal of New Rochelle on Thursday, May the 18th, 2000 at 10 a.m. And this was received by us the day before. Is that crooked? Yes, you know very well it's crooked. I suggest that you contact me immediately, City Marshal. And what's this crook's name? Samuel J. Pierce. So here's another one to add to the who to sue list. And that is how crooked the ring is of greedy landlords, crooked lawyers, and corrupt judges. And who are they in this case? You start with one, Ishvan Kasari, an immigrant, or he actually isn't, who should be deported to Hungary because he's broken so many American laws. And then his crooked lawyer, liar for hire, Nicholas P. Barome. And then a crooked city judge named Scher, S-C-H-E-R, and another one named Rice, and a crooked clerk named Generoso, and all of the clerks who work for him, like Estelle and all the others. And then you have crooked administrative judge Francis X. Nicolai and his deceitful and useless law clerk named Tommy Berg. Then you have an interloper named Edward A. Fry, who works for a law firm named Sweeney on Post Road in White Plains. And then the next crook and the last crook is William J. Giacomo. And that's what you got in the courts today, and that's what we're going to get rid of. So what's left for these people? To picket them and to sue them. Folks, I have some pictures to show you. This is a horse who works for the police department of the city of White Plains. Now, Why do they have to abuse a beautiful animal like this? A horse. City Police Department, White Plains. Why? A beautiful animal like that. Here's the horse going down the street. And the big 250-pound cop on top of the horse's back. How would you like to have something like that on your back? You crawl on all fours. He was talking to a man lingering on the sidewalk on Martine. See the poor horse's face. See? He's in torment. So the man lingering there was talking to the cop, and the cop's going along down the street on the long side curb, and the man's on the sidewalk, and they're chit-chatting, passing the time of day, while there's 250-pounders on the poor horse's back. And the man on the sidewalk says, "Watch it, there's Glendora taking pictures." And the cop on the back of the horse says, "Oh yeah." And so they parted company rather quickly. Now you tell me why they have to put that horse through that. Here's some other pictures of White Plains. This is a library at White Plains. Not a very good picture taken from the 1980 Lincoln. The ATM machine. This is the plant that I thought was dead, but I wouldn't give up, and I kept watering it, and look at it, it's coming back. It's even much farther ahead than this. This is a house across the street, and this is a house down the street. This is Texaco, folks, where they fly the flag of state of New York. Outside and inside, they violate the laws of the state of New York. They violate a shareholder's right to see the books, records, and minutes. And these are protesters at the Texaco annual meeting for the harm that they do the land and people in foreign countries. That's the Performing Arts Theater at the State University of New York at SUNY. And it is one, well, the theater that we were in was beautiful. These are the satellite dishes down at Lynbrook Cablevision. This is Rinky Dink Cablevision in Harrison. You go there, and very often there's nobody working. These are cute little Rocky, not a little, 95 pounds. And this was on Easter, I believe. Great dog. This is a dog that we rescued from the so-called Humane Society. They're going to murder him. We went and we bailed him out. And here he is pulling me all over the place. And here again. Now I'm going to show you Rocky's $350,000 home. That's where Rocky lives. Here's a good picture of Rocky taken with Patty's expensive 35mm camera that we bought her for her birthday. And here's Pat. Oh yeah, this is Glendora and Franklin on Glendora's birthday, 72nd birthday at Patty's. Here's Patty and Franklin at the front door of Patty's house. Here's Rocky in his yard. In his nice fenced-in yard. Poor Rocky. You remember when he was tied up on a 3-foot chain all of his life, day and night, and nobody ever took him for a walk? Here's Rocky. There's Rocky in his yard. And here he is. Franklin is still limping from the fall that Ishvan Kasari caused him, hit him on the head with the front door and knocked him over backwards on the front steps under the concrete. Franklin still limps, but he goes and does the grocery shopping. Folks, I am so sad. I went to the Mount Vernon High School to hand in my videotape to be cablecast on Time Warner, so-called teleprompter system in Mount Vernon. And guess what? There's metal detectors there. Metal detectors. And security guards. And you have to wear a badge and you have to have a pass. Why, that's awful. High school was so much fun. We had so much fun and we had so many laughs and we had so many good times. And now see how grim it is. Isn't that a sad thing, folks? Folks, there's a hardware store in White Plains on Post Road as you're coming north from Scarsdale, opposite the White Plains Hospital. And the name of the hardware store is Burke McGowan. And I always like to go in there because it's such an old-fashioned store. It's just like, it looks like an old-fashioned general store. And it has a hardwood floor, you know, no tile or anything like that. So I always liked going in there. And they have such a variety of products. But I got this key made there. And it's to an old-fashioned house, and that's the way old-fashioned house keys used to work. And this guy Jim, he swore up and down that it was a club. I don't have a club, and I don't belong to a club. He means the thing that you put on your car wheel to keep it from being stolen. I kept saying it wasn't. And so he made this key. He charged me $3.15 for it. He put a B on it to show that it was made at Burke McGowan. And then I went back to get my money back, and he wouldn't give it to me. And he denied that there was any B on there when there is. So I was ripped off for $3.15 by Jim at Burke McGowan. Do not go there. Consumer Report for this week. So, Nicholas P. Barone misspells the judge's name, and his stand-in, Edward A. Fry, has to resubmit the paper and spell the name of the judge right, Giacomo. And the judgment that comes out has a cross-out in it. Tenants and Neighbors. Tenants and Neighbors is a newspaper that is put out by a very strong tenants association for the state of New York. And I wish that you would get in touch with them, because I do not want a greedy landlord and a corrupt lawyer and a crooked judge pushing you around. The name of this organization again is Tenants and Neighbors. This is their newspaper, and I don't know, maybe I better put it up on the character generator. I guess I will. What their telephone number is. Michael McGee runs it, and it's at 248 Hudson Avenue. No, excuse me, that's in Albany. You want the New York address, 505 8th Avenue, New York, New York. I'm going to read you in just a second the agenda for the New York Public Meeting on cable television in White Plains on June the 13th. Folks, here it is, the state of New York, the 3 Empire State Plaza, Albany, New York, the Public Service Commission. And this is their invitation for a seminar all day on cable television. And I will read to you the agenda. (8:30 a.m. registration, 9 a.m. welcome and opening, 9:15 renewal process. That's renewing a cable television franchise. Okay. At 10:15 a.m. Steps, procedures, and issues and negotiations, administration of franchises, and franchise fee issues. At 10:15 a.m. there's a coffee break. At 10:30 a.m. Consumer Protection Federal and State Customer Service Standards. I want you to go. I want you to go and see where these cable operators are ripping you off. These greedy cable operators. 11:15 a.m. is legal updates. What's happened in the courts about cable television. And at 12 p.m. is luncheon. And their food was very good at Smithtown, at the Sheridan. It was really good. And at 1 p.m. is a public access, contractual elements, and access overview and First Amendment issues. And at 1:45 p.m. presentation by Cablevision Systems Incorporated and emerging technologies. So that's the regional seminar agenda at the Crown Plaza, White Plains, on June the 13th, 2000, sponsored by the New York State Department of Public Service. Here's some more cheating in the courts. This is the United States Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit, located in New Orleans. And it says, please be advised that any reconsideration of this court's order of April the 6th, 2000 was due for filing in this office by no later, it says. By no later, it should be, than April 21st, 2000. Your petition for hearing en banc, Dennis cheated, that's the judge, was received in this office on April 24th, 2000, which is untimely. In light of this, no action is being taken on the same. Well, this is another lie. That petition for en banc was mailed on April 13th. And there's no reason it should have taken until April 24th. These people are a bunch of liars and cheaters. Next report to you folks, you remember Roberts versus Texaco, when Texaco discriminated against blacks and women and other minority groups, and they got caught. Okay, they got caught badly, and it was such a shameful disgrace, and of course Bryant being one of the laziest judges we have, the case got settled. It never should have been settled. It should have gone before you as a jury trial. It should have gone before the public. It got settled. It got settled for $475 million plus this task force thing of equal opportunity, where they have a bunch of people spying on Texaco to make sure that they are conforming with what the settlement said. As you can see, the United States District Court, Southern District of New York, in re the Texaco Task Force on Equality and Fairness. And the docket number is M10469, whatever that means. Now, I'll tell you, the people who are on this task force, we don't know who they are, who appointed them, how much they get paid. But we certainly know that the stuff that they are putting out is really a bunch of rhetoric. You cannot mandate people to be not prejudiced, people to be not retaliatory. You just can't do that in a court. And the court that ordered this, Bryant, is one of the most retaliatory persons you could meet anywhere, and one of the most biased and prejudiced people that you could meet anyway. On this task force are Deval L. Patrick, John J. Gibbons, Jacqueline Johnson, Alan J. Crow. I know who he was. He's a former Texaco person. Mari J. Matsuda, and Luis G. Nogales, and Thomas S. Williamson, Jr. I have read the 1997 report on the Equality and Fairness Task Force for the 6 months ending December 31st, 1997. I have annotated it. It takes a long, long time to do this. And I have said, well, you know, what the defects are and how it isn't going to work, and I really think the whole thing is a sham. And I have 1999 to do. It's interesting, and 1998 is half done. It's this much done. It's interesting that when I went over there and demanded to see this, as it said in the settlement that a person could go to Texaco and demand to see this. I waited, I waited, I waited, I waited. Nobody at the front desk knew anything about it. They didn't know where to call, they didn't know whom to call. So I waited and I waited and I waited. So I got up and I went out, and then the guard came running after me. And he says, Glendora, Glendora, wait, wait, it's coming down. And I went back down, and I sat down again, and Bridget brought it down. And Gadsden is the Texaco person or whatever, who is responsible to getting this to the public, I guess. Interesting experience. Go over there and ask for it if you're interested in equality in the working place. Folks, here's an interesting thing that came into the mail today. It's the Fury, the 1958 Plymouth Fury. You remember that car with the great big fins? We're particularly interested in it because we had the 1956 Dodge, and that was the first year of the fins. I don't know what these people are doing. They're mint, and they're making a model, I guess, of it. So the 1956 Dodge was the first year of the fins, great big fins. And then in '57 they came out more extremely. Even Cadillac did it. And you could see in 1958 the fins are really extreme. But it was a great car. So I thought that was kind of interesting for you to know about. And how did they find out about us? Cars and Parts sold our name and address to them. I hate that when companies do that, don't you? When they sell your name and address to some other company. I don't have to subscribe to Cars and Parts anymore because I'm doing very well getting my 1980 Lincoln parts. I'm so upset with our Eureka vacuum cleaner. It's brand new. We used it once, it was beautiful. We used it twice, it was beautiful. Today, it has no suction. It won't pick up any dirt off of the rugs. So I called the library and I found out who is the CEO of Eureka Vacuum Company, and I got the telephone number and the address, and then I get a whole bunch of recordings on the telephone, and finally I get this number for security, and I asked security for the extension of the president of the company, and at first he demurred, and I told him, you know, that, and he gave it to us. And so I left a message on the recorder of the president of the company of Eureka. This is Chat with Glendora. Goodbye. Keep the courage flaming. Here's Robert S. Lemley again with 11,500 shares. He exercised his option. Folks, welcome to the Long Island edition of A Chat with Glendora. This is program number 2715. And the Long Island edition also goes to the Bronx Net, Portland, Oregon, Connecticut, Brooklyn, and Cross River. It goes to East Hampton, Hauppauge, Riverhead, Great Neck, and Nassau. Doesn't have to be that complicated, you know. It's just Cablevision making such a mess out of everything. And what makes a mess out of Cablevision is its greed. We have jokes for you. The minister said to the little boy, "Johnny, what is love?" And Johnny says, "Love is, well, I like my mother and father, but I love my bubble gum." And the teacher says, "What is the plural of mouse?" The boy said, "Mice." "What's the plural of goose?" Boy said, "Geese." "What's the plural of baby?" Boy said, "Twins." And why do judges stand on their heads? Why do judges stand on their heads? So they can turn things over in their minds. And the history class, the teacher asked the children, what were the Poles doing in Russia in 1940? What were the Poles doing in Russia in 1940? And the little girl said, holding up the telephone wires. And a man standing waiting for a bus said to the man next to him, "Do you know how long the next bus is?" And the man next to him said, "About 25 feet. And the fireman was out teaching the second graders fire prevention, and he asked the little girl, "What would you do if your clothes caught on fire?" And she said, "I wouldn't put them on." First bulletin is this is a continuation of Carl Lance's era, Harvey Cash, Americans for Legal Reform, nominations to date for the worst judges and lawyers, District Attorney Catterson's office, who doesn't care about the truth, only covering his wazoo, The People versus Gargano, number 2079, and 1830. Michael G. Walsh, Esquire, who has no idea of the truth, justice, or billable time, i.e. Santino Tamiano, I guess, Tamaino, T-A-M-A-I-N-O. Kenneth Cooper Smith, Esquire, who will litigate divorce proceedings for $5 million plus in billable time. Number 9 is District Attorney Dillon, who holds a fundraising dinner when he probably won't run again. Who keeps the money? 10. ADA : Astorita and others who overcharge for plea bargains, that is, The People versus Daniel Flynn. Next week I'll read you 5 more, maybe. Next report up, folks, is Glendora monitored the courts in the Eastern District of New York at 11:45 a.m. Glendora arrived, and she walked through the park. And 11:50 a.m. she was into the courthouse. There were no incidents with the Acals, who used to be Pinkertons. At 11:57 a.m. she went to the 3rd floor, and Azrak was holding a trial. And she is instructing the jury. And it's the same phony stuff that she told our jury. And she's reading it. And then she's telling them that a witness cannot give an opinion. Sometimes you have a special knowledge witness, and that's called an expert. You know, like doctors and lawyers, how they clean up this money in the courts. At noon, they took a break for lunch. And then she said, "Therese, close the door." And nobody at this point had recognized Glendora. They didn't know that Glendora was in there monitoring the court. And I was writing on my reply brief on the lies of Edgardo Ramos in the Bruiser Ken case. And at 12:10 p.m., Azraq answered the lawyer's questions and had the typical, what would be called a sidebar, and then Azraq left the courtroom. So Glendora left that courtroom, and at 12:10 p.m. She monitored Shrine's courtroom. He also was talking to jurors, and he told them to go to lunch and not to come back until Friday because the doctors were not available. And they're always bossing jurors, and their attitude is condescending when these jurors are giving up everything to come and serve, to make this system work. Well, let me tell you, the system in the Eastern District of New York never works. And then I went to Marilyn Dolan Go, magistrate. Went to her courtroom. It was locked. It was dark. So, as ever, go is stop. That was at 12:15 p.m. and at 12:24 p.m. There was nothing going on in the back hall. And then I went into another courtroom, and Levy, Robert Levy, the one who violated the Fourth Amendment to the Constitution of the United States with Kwiatkowski, no oath under penalty of perjury, no sworn oath, when he made the complaint, because it was all lies, and Levy failed terribly. He should have called in and ascertained the truth. And the second Fourth Amendment violation with Levy was that he had no probable cause. So that is a blot, 2 blots on his conscience that will live forever, as long as he lives. He was asking people what if they worked, and if their husband worked, and if they had any children, and did they work, and what newspapers they read, and what they did with their free time. At 12:15 to 52 p.m. there was a trial, and witnesses were testifying. It was a female judge, and guess who the judge was? Nina Gershon, the one who sold her soul for that punk Kenneth H. Mildworm, who has since been fired disgracefully. And she was the 55th conspirator in that whole mess in the Eastern District of New York. The Glasser courtroom was empty. Corman, there were 3 people in there waiting. A baby was crying. And Donald E. Walter is a new name on the doors, a visiting judge. And at 12:15 p.m., an A call came after me when I went to monitor Pollock's courtroom. I couldn't find the courtroom. All I could see was doors to judges' chambers. And finally, I found the courtroom, and it would have, the 8 call could have told me where it was, room 519. And I watched that, and there was a trial going on. Amon's courtroom was empty. Deary, there was a trial going on, and it was Weinstein. And it was a nasty attorney making a witness very uncomfortable. Nicholson's courtroom was open and empty. And Raji's courtroom was empty, and Sifton, there were people sitting around, and this was at 12:38 p.m. There were 12 people, and they were all very silent. And at 12:50 p.m., the public inspection of the Eastern District of New York ended, and the Glendora makes this conclusion: the verdict, if you are innocent, you will be convicted, particularly if you are a victim. And at 12:58 p.m., I went and, in commemoration, bought something. One more note to tell you. Yeah, that's done. I did that. Have some pictures to show you folks. This is the tower at Cablevision in Lynbrook. This is a very nice operation by Shirley Bruno and her board, and her association, Public Access Association in Great Neck. It's a very nice house they have there. This is Cablevision at Lindbergh. These is another picture of the discs. I think that's the most amazing thing. You know, I've told you before that you know God through electromagnetic radiation. And the part of the electromagnetic spectrum that you can see is colors. But you see, there are electromagnetic waves coming in and going through the atmosphere all the time, and you don't know what they are unless you have a receiver. So unless you have a receiver up here, you don't know what waves God is going through this room, this very room. And of course it's electromagnetic waves magnetic waves doing this camera. That's some more of the dishes down there. So let me see if there's any other pictures to show you. No, those are all white planes. They go on the Westchester edition. We wish to commend Paul Sparrow and Jay Throne and Jacques for their work on the anathema written by Cablevision, all of the restraints and violations of prohibit and limit public access that they have done. They have reported that the town of South Hole has refused to recognize the Cablevision anathema, the so-called public access kit, and they have told the access producers that the so-called contracts or agreements are null and void and not to sign them. And also we wish to commend Riverhead for telling Cablevision that they owe Riverhead a second public access channel. The letter that I wrote to John Walker, the new Chief Judge of the United States Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit, thank heavens we got rid of Ralph K. Winter. He sent the judge back to the clerk, and the clerk says that I have to write a motion for the judges on my case to read our comments and completing of the record, setting the record straight on Ramos's lies. And so I have to write this motion to ask them to read the papers that we submitted in comment on Ramos's lies and also on the very fine work of Jane Cassidy. You would think that a court would want to know as much information as possible so as to rule in a plenary and just fashion. Wouldn't you think that? Okay, so we'll make out a T-1080 motion form and tell them to accept our papers. This is censorship. Give Cassidy credit. She writes to Keegan, the so-called case manager, I am forwarding to you the papers filed by Glendora that were returned to me by the court. Now that's a bad thing to do. The court should keep the papers and read them. I represent Franklin on his appeal, docket number 1764, and Glendora apparently filed these papers under her husband's docket number because these papers may have been intended for consideration in Glendora's appeal, and her case is being handled by the pro se clerk's office under docket number 001081. I am forwarding them to you, so give Cassidy credit for that. Isn't it awful the way they shuffle papers? And what do they deal you? Folks, Robert Goldberg got out a superlative mailing on the public access movement. And in here he tells about, he writes an essay called King George and the Cable Company. And he's likening Cablevision to King George and the fight in America for free speech. That's how far behind Cablevision is. I don't know. I think Andrew Hersman has the right idea to have a Cablevision hate page. Now, he includes, Robert Goldberg includes in here a summary of the Cablevision Riverhead meeting on May the 11th, 2000. And a notice of showings of Cablevision's May 4th meeting with public access producers in Lynbrook. That's on the TV. Have you seen it? He gives upcoming relevant meetings. On May the 25th, folks, in Suffolk County, the Consumer Protection Committee of the Suffolk County Legislature will be holding a hearing about public access cable in the Dennison building in the media room at 9:15 a.m. and sign up to speak. Saturday, June 3rd will be the second producers meeting, public access producers meeting at 223 Front Street, Hempstead at 11 a.m. Please go to that and go for me, because if things go right, the 50th reunion of my college in the year 2000, I graduated in 1950, American International College in Springfield, Massachusetts, is on June 3rd, and if all goes right, Franklin and I would like to limp up there and go to that. A copy of a letter to Cablevision from Thomas J. Hillgartner, Esquire, on behalf of public access producers and viewers. It's superb. It's written to Charles Former, and I have said before many times that Charles Former is an idiot, and I have personal knowledge of that. Mr. Hillgartner says that I represent numerous public access users, and I write with regard to their rights as public access users on most of the cable systems in the New York metropolitan area where the public access channel is administered by Cablevision. My clients are beside themselves over the recently released PEG access kit containing modified access user rules, access user contract, and policies and procedures. These documents violate both the letter and the spirit of the Cable Act's prohibition against the cable operators' exercise of editorial control and supervision over the content of programming on the public access channel. This is the rest of his letter, folks. And it was sent to all of these people. So good for Thomas J. Hillgartner. And Robert Goldberg writes information about joining in the action. Thomas J. Hillgartner, Esquire, has agreed to undertake this case pro bono. That means no fee. There are still expenses in litigation, including court filing fees and the reproduction, binding, and mailing of documents. Anyone who wants to be a plaintiff in the lawsuit to force Cablevision to stop implementation of its PEG access kit, to rewrite a mutually agreeable contract, and to implement rules and policies that comply with applicable law and the needs of public access producers and their viewers, please contact Mr. Hillgartner at the address below. Let me find that for you. Oh, 82-63, 170th Street, Jamaica, New York. 11432. I hope you videotape this and you can play it back. 8263, 170th Street, Jamaica, New York, 11432, or call me and I'll give you his address. Now, King George and the Cable Company. In relation to this matter, folks, we had a meeting with Cablevision on Friday, and Cablevision admitted they had made 2 mistakes. That's something. My goodness. In 10 years, I've never heard them do that. And they're still going to go through with this anathema, this public access kit. I have my lawsuit against them, and they showed some signs of conciliation, but Cablevision's really in for it. In their arrogance and their ignorance, they go about breaking state law and federal law. I caught them at it once, and they were told by the court to put the program back on TV. Our lawsuit, that would be Lori Galgano, Phil Goldstein, Glendora, and a whole lot of other public access producers, versus James L. Dolan, Charles F. Dolan, Robert S. Lemley, Charles Forma, Cablevision Systems Corporation, Mark Shukin, Brian McNeil, Maurice Cunningham, Robert Callaghy, Satterley, Stevens, Burke, and Burke. Group 1 defendants. That lawsuit is doing very well. The empty summons have been sent to us. All we have to do is fill them out, send them back to the clerk. In pro se matters in federal court, the clerk signs the summons, and that gives it the clout of the court. And then those summons have to be served. And also, I've got to get together, if I get time, I want to write an order to show cause, why Cablevision has to show cause, why they should not be temporarily restrained from going forward with this odious public access kit on July 1st, 2000. So I got to get time to do that. Now, hold on just a second until I check my notes. This remote is not working right. Folks, Tuesday afternoon after finishing editing at Long Island, Franklin and Glendora drove up to Bethpage, to Cablevision headquarters, where the Grumman airplanes used to fly. And we made our demand, Section 624 by the New York State Business Corporation Law, that we wanted to see the books, records, and minutes, and our 718, Section 718 demand that we wanted to see a current list of the directors with and officers of Cablevision with their home addresses. And we left it there on Tuesday with the instructions that they had on Wednesday and Thursday to get it ready, and we would be back Friday to see it. Well, now, let me tell you what the graphic is going to tell you, that Charles F. Dolan, James L. Dolan, and John Tata and Robert S. Lemley have committed a massive crime. They are afraid to show the books, records, and minutes to a shareholder. They are so afraid they even violate New York state law. They lie about it, they cheat, and they pay off judges. So we get this lie and cheat from a Cablevision lawyer that shareholders are paying to cover up their crimes, Victoria Sellhouse. And she's saying that because they are a Delaware corporation, that only Section 13 of the New York State Business Corporation Law applies to them, nothing in Sections 600 or 700, and so that is a lie and that is a cheat, and they are making money in the state of New York. They're making money off of you. You are the people who are making them the money and the millions they get. This is in the state of New York, and while they're making that money, they have to comply with the state of New York laws. So we've got Cablevision, another situation in the courts of violating the law. The next topic up, folks, is Ramos's lies on his appellee's brief. Here it is. OO-1081 is the docket number in the United States Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit, and this is the anti-United States of America against Glendora and Franklin on appeal from the United States District Court for the Eastern District of New York, and the villain is Nina Gershon, and the villain next in line, of course, is Joan Azrak, and the other 53 conspirators. This is Glendora's reply brief and appendix. And it starts out with this argument, with no frills, that to sentient, honest, honorable, moral, patriotic Homo sapiens, it is obvious what happened. The Edgardo Ramos gang of 55 conspirators are a disgrace to the red, white, and blue. Red, white, and blue. Red, white, and blue. We were called to stop them. It has been an onerous and Herculean call. It has been worse than protecting the public against Scott Lord and Cablevision. Ramos and the 54 others know that we know they are lying. They know that you know they are lying. They also know that God knows they are lying. It is a sick situation for this country to fall into. Nowhere do Ramos, Navickas, who is a little paralegal being corrupted by the U.S. Attorney's Office, and Lynch, who is the U.S. Attorney replacing Carter. We got rid of Carter, but Lynch is a clone of Carter. Nowhere do Ramos, Navickas, Lynch swear under penalty of perjury. They are telling you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and always have, so help them God. Well, they are not. Under penalty of perjury, Glendora declares she is telling you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and always has, so help her God. It's a very comfortable position. I was there. I know what happened. The punk Ramos and the 54 other conspirators said their sold their soul for, has been canned. He has been, quote, criminally fired, unquote, quote, fired for incompetence, unquote. This happened in July of 1999. He was fired by ACOL. Pinkerton lost the contract, and Glendora Franklin take full credit for that. Ramos and his gang of 55 ignominiously eschew this fact. They have no answer. They never mention the fact that Bruiser Ken was ignominiously fired. Nowhere do Ramos, Navickas, Lynch declare under penalty of perjury they are fully familiar with the facts and circumstances. Well, they are not. They were not there. They are trying to sucker this court. Now, what court is this? The United States Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit. Hear ye, hear ye, hear ye. Bruiser Ken beat up Glendora, inflicting 6 bruises, dropped her on the floor, socked Franklin on the jaw, and knocked him on the floor. To cover up this heinous assault in a federal courthouse, Uniondale, on the elderly people, he lied that Glendora and Franklin assaulted him. Instead of facing punishment for what he did, coward that he is, he lied and fled. Now, what are you going to do? This is Glendora talking to the Second Circuit. What are you going to do? Are you going to continue the hoax and make fools of yourselves and your country, or are you going to set things straight? Are you going to answer your call from God? Ramos eschews the record that Franklin Glendora requested the U.S. Attorney Office 23 times to arrest Bruiser Ken for double criminal assault. And it's all on audio tape. Ramos eschews the fact, an audio tape, he had Murray, Franklin's legal aid, call Glendora and pressure Glendora to cease asking the Assistant U.S. Attorney's Office to arrest Mildworm. Glendora pointed out the damage to America. Murray went away without the conformance that Ramos tried to coerce Murray into. Now, who is Ramos? Ramos is the cheater, assistant U.S. attorney, who is told something like 600 or 700, 800 lies, and has caused 3,924 lies, approximately, to be told by others in his gang of conspirators, including many judges, magistrates, clerks. Ramos does not address his machination that when Glendora Franklin filed a double criminal assault charge with the Nassau County Police, Edgardo Ramos and the FBI, Thomas Kwiatkowski, robbed the file so that Bruiser Ken would not get arrested. These crimes against America on February the 18th, 1997 to date have been exposed on TV every week. Glendora gives Franklin's legal aid, Jane Ann Murray, vigorous applause for leaving the stench of this racket. She joined the Peace Corps and went to Cambodia to help the people there. Truly, Glendora believes that Jane Ann wanted to help the indigent and the abused in the Eastern District of New York. But the corruption and evil there straitjacketed beyond being functional. So she went off and joined the Peace Corps, and the latest word on that is that they don't think that Jane Ann is coming back. She was supposed to be back last February, and here it is May. She is not back. And the word now is that she won't be coming back. She will help people other ways. You can't help people in the Eastern District of New York. It is too far gone. This is Glendora Refutes Ramos's Lies, number 3,811 to I think it's 3,920 something. And the first lie, of course, is the caption. There is no such case as this. And he calls himself the United States of America. He is the anti-United States of America. And so every page, every paragraph is refuted line by line. United States of America.
She hates the human condition. She hates her job. She hates to do her job, but she's committed. She's disloyal to the United States and to the human condition. She's very mischievous, and she is an accomplice to the organized crime of the Second Circuit Court of Appeal of the United States. That's the New York, Vermont, Connecticut jurisdiction of the middle-level federal court appellate judicial system. She, first of all, for her preparation, she is a student, a fellow in the Advanced Human Behavior Institute. It's a California organization that studies, as part of its principal work, makes the application and study of the Nazi, the Third Reich military psychological program that was followed by the Nazis. And of course, this lady was a fellow, and she did that, and she applies, those are the rules that she applies. And what it is, this is all part, now this was even the Nazis discovered that this was part of the Zionist program for human control, but they used it because it was so devastatingly efficient in controlling and denying people course, now this lady brought this with her when she went, and she became on the was nominated to the Supreme Court of the United States. And of course, I did extensive research on it, and I studied it, and I presented it to the so-called hearing boards. But all that got me was a certain amount of uncomfortable attention from the rest of the judicial organization and the lawyers' organizations who were just trying to shoo her in as part of this of the disloyal protocols followed by the Supreme Court of the United States. They are actually, and especially here in the Second Circuit, they're actually an organization against the human condition. And they mock us. They lose our papers anytime we bring papers. If a citizen should bring papers by way of a petition, the papers are lost. They're not read. They are subject to arbitrary procedural rejections and all kinds of mischievous efforts to keep the court from doing what it's supposed to do, read the papers and apply the law. But if they do that, then of course they're doing their job, and they can't apply the rule of hatred. Now, the rule of hatred is not the word hate or any of its derivatives. Real hatred arise from the authoritative levels of the government. They promise us protection. We know, for instance, that the police are supposed to be there for our protection, but we see they're actually armed hunters of the human condition. And of course, we've got the Lima, the Dennis case that was just where they killed this kid, and the Diallo case, and other cases where they're indiscriminately, they turn their hand pistols on the human condition just to avoid protecting, doing what they're supposed to do to protect the human condition and protect our society. Now, that they do this with this, these cops do this with the approval of the courts, who say all of these murders and this brutality is justifiable because they are operating within the framework of the Third Reich psychiatric warfare, Third Reich psychiatric protocols that were developed during the Third Reich. Now, Ruth Bader Ginsburg is part of that school of applied hatred in the form of lies against the people in the Second Circuit. Now, why the Second Circuit? Because that's the area where she is supposed to take care of her business, because she comes from the Second Circuit. And this, of course, is one of the problems. Now, of course, she is just one. All of them are pretty much the same. In addition, she has taken cases involving financial interest of her husband, and she has with a view to be challenged for conflict of interest. And this, of course, is what makes her eligible for impeachment. But no one wants to do that. Now, I think my 5 minutes are up, and I will sign off.
Okay. One question. What is the human condition?
The human condition is what humanity is all about. Humans, being human, is humanity is a condition of the animal structure in our society. We have vegetables and animals, right? So the human condition, human beings are part of the human condition, as opposed to the animal condition, the lower elements of the animal condition.
You mean a Homo sapiens?
Homo sapiens, yeah, you could say that, yeah.
Okay. All right, Gene. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Take care.
Right, thank you.
Bye. right back. What's your opinion of the Supreme Court of the United States of America?
To call it the mafia is to do dishonor to the mafia. They are the worst form of conduct in the human condition that the human condition has known. And they do this deliberately, starting with the first Chief Justice, John Jay. John Jay was a matriculated crook, embezzler, owner of kidnapped Africans, and murderer, owner and operator of a gang of Murder Incorporated of that time of 200 years ago. Now, 200 years ago, the laws only permitted the medical schools and anatomy students to have one body per year for their dissections. John Jay put into place a cadaver marketing operation which included manufacturing of cadavers. They actually killed people. They killed people who ran down on their luck, mostly sailors who had left ship or were shanghaied by their ships, or their ships had left port without them, and these people were left they were vulnerable economically, and of course when they came into contact with the John Jay gang of cadaver snatchers or manufacturers, what they did was they would wine them and dine them and get them drunk, and the next thing they would turn them into a cadaver, and they would sell them to this clandestine market of dead people for use as dissection models in the medical schools and anatomy and schools of anatomy that required them. And this is something that eventually he put into practice. They eventually, as governor of the state of New York, eventually he changed the law so that they could, they formalized, they institutionalized the marketing of cadavers of dead people for use in medical and other scientific activities. But this was the thinking pattern, the mindset of John Jay. Not only that, he had also previously been attaché to the Carlos III, and he embezzled over $300,000 from Carlos III by writing bills of exchange, which were paid by, which he was able to force or embarrass the King of Spain into pay them, and this was for money that was supposed to be on the declaration of John Jay to have been used for the operation of the Revolutionary War by reason of supplying money, material, and war supplies for the operation of the so-called Revolutionary War that kept the founding fathers or organized crime of that time from being hanged at the gallows of the English court for treason. And so now this mindset in the Supreme speculators in the New York market who wanted to secede the state of New York and the city of New York into two separate foreign nations so that they could continue operating the speculations in silver, not silver, in the cotton and sugar. And of course, the truth of the matter is that the price of cotton went from $15 a bale to $500 a bale during the operation of this Civil War, and there were different schemes put into place so that the largely Jewish speculators in cotton and sugar could continue their operation and, of course, continue killing American men in the South and as well as in the North. Otherwise, the Civil War would have been over in months. It wouldn't have happened, let's put it that way, if it wasn't for this threat of the Jews of New York City to divide the city, to secede the state and the city and make two separate nations out of it. This was prevented, it wasn't really prevented, but it was brokered by Hamilton Fish the First, who had been a governor of the state of New York during early 1850, 52, and he had operated to prevent the formal secession of the state of New York, but there were many riots in the city and state of New York, which made New York as with a washout as far as being an effective member state, a federal state in the Union, but it did serve Lincoln's purpose to, in quotes, keep the Union together. Now, this, of course, this mischief in this, of operating the Supreme Court, at that time, the judiciary in the state of New York was operated by one Albert Cardozo. He was the father of Benjamin Cardozo, and Albert Cardozo was a notorious crook, and he corrupted the judicial system in the state of New York on the federal as well as in the state level, and we inherited that when eventually his son became a member of the Supreme Court of the United States, and of course we were, the truth of the matter was that this was part of this Jewish control of the judicial system that operated, that got as strong as possible during the Wilson administration, where President Wilson had gotten into had become romantically involved with a lady known as Mary Ellen Peck, and she was blackmailing him for hundreds of thousands of dollars, which were paid by Bernard Baruch. Bernard Baruch, as a quid pro quo, or getting value for his money, put Louis Brandeis became the first so-called Jewish or Zionist member of the Supreme Court of the United States, and Louis Brandeis was actually president of the Zionist World Zionist Organization in the United States, and of course his first agenda was to promote the World Zionist agenda through the Supreme Court. Now he was followed by Felix Frankfurter, Felix Frankfurter was identified in 1939 as a card-carrying communist by J. Edgar Hoover. Now, I was personally involved in that when Mr. Johnson took executive privilege to suppress the publication of the information that had been issued by that had been suppressed by the J. Edgar Hoover's FBI organization in order not to embarrass President Roosevelt by appointing a card-carrying communist to the Supreme Court of the United States. Now, further down the line, Cardozo as an ambassador to the United Nations. So you see, now you have these, we have the metaphor of this Zionist ideology in place from Ruth Bader Ginsburg and Breyer. And now these people here operate through the interests of principally the English insurance interests, the Lloyd's of London. And they've both been involved in that. As a matter of fact, the love judge, Kimber Wood, was actually caught with her hands in the cookie jar as plotting to suppress information for the prosecution, her own prosecution of the antitrust laws, under the antitrust laws of the, in other words, she had her clients when she was working for the law firm of the Booth Lamb in the Texas office, and she actually guided these people into circumventing the antitrust laws. And this is the reason why the Supreme Court is not really a court. It's a gangsterhood of men and women who are enslaved to the international world Zionist ideology to enslave honest human beings. And I wish it wasn't true, but here I am. I said it, and I hope I survive the statement.
Okay, Gene.
My 7 minutes are up, so whatever.
No, you had 5,
Yeah.
and you've gone to 13.
Right, okay, there you go. So whatever.
No, you had 5,
Yeah.
and you've gone to 13.
Right, okay, there you go.
Okay. I don't know. Okay, I don't know what to... Well, all right.
You do it with it what you think is right. I gave track. That I listened to heard it in the Westchester airing. They said they liked me and they confirmed that they wanted to make sure it was me. I said, yeah, I did that.
That's good.
They mentioned your name too, Glendora.
Oh, that's good.
Glendora is fine. She's my producer, and I'm happy to be alongside her.
Oh, I'm glad. I'm glad that you got some feedback. Oh, that's good, Gene.
It is.
Yeah. Gene Crescenzi, do we really need the Supreme Court of the United States in its present mode?
The answer to that is no, because we don't need gangsters to run the country. It was necessary 200 years ago when the whole operation of the government was organized crime. Today, we're more sophisticated. As a matter of fact, the Supreme Court of the United States only handles about 90 cases a year. It is presented with 7,000 to 8,000 applications for adjudication to use the rule of law. Now, if we are going to have 98% of the country run according to a dictatorial or totalitarian system where the Supreme Court doesn't even enter, and the only cases where it enters is on a frivolous basis, because nothing seems to change after they accept the case. And we know that because of the results when they do take a case. When they do take a case, it's usually to resolve one crook against another, who is also in the political scheme of things. So what do we need the Supreme Court for? Just to regulate a gangster operation among the 50 states and subdivisions that we have. So why do we have to call on a crook, a gun all about. This lady, gangster, from Brooklyn, New York, she made it part of her credits, her kudos, that she could bring into the Supreme Court. Now, she's been doing this for a number of years in the District of Columbia Circuit Court. So I can't imagine why we need more of this gangster. We have other people like Judge Thomas, who's a nice guy. He's black. He's a token black on the court, and what he does, he's become the black on the outside and white on the inside metaphor of Uncle Toms and betrayers of the interests of the black people. What do the black people need a traitor for? I can't imagine. Why does anyone need a whole bunch of them as traitors? They're all disloyal. And we don't really need the Supreme Court, especially in the light of the fact that they were put together to take all cases presented to them, to make sure that justice was equally applied all over the country. Instead, what they do is they take 1.5% to 2% of the cases, and they let the country operate like a fiefdom in the different circuits, so that you have one rule of law applying in the Fourth Circuit, another in the Second Circuit, especially in the Second Circuit, where you have complete chaos as far as the application of the rule of law goes. There are more cases, there are more people who were abused in the Second Circuit than it's possible to imagine. And all you have to do is go down to the pro se clerk office and watch the people come out there and how they're massaged and stroked by these equally disloyal clerks who will probably, sooner or later, they'll become district judges, and they'll go on up the line, and they will continue their operation against this war against humanity. Why do we need a Supreme Court that operates a war against the human condition and the rule of law, the intellectual concept for which they were put into place? You know, they also started the Civil War with the Dred Scott decision, and that was strictly a cash and carry operation. They were protecting the people who had vested interests in the continued kidnapping of Africans for unpaid indenture here in the United States. I don't know if anyone can tell me why we need a Supreme Court to continue a racketeer operation. I'm listening, but I've been trying to listen for too long, and I have to say we don't need the Supreme Court. As a matter of fact, Lincoln had a good idea. He wanted to arrest all of them, and he did arrest some judges. But this is what we ought to do. We ought to have warrants of arrest put out by the Department of Justice to arrest every one of them. And of course, we had the Zionist takeover of the courts, that actually the courts aren't operating even as badly as they do operate. They operate as according to a Zionist ideology that was bought and paid for by Bernard Baruch during the tenure of Woodrow Wilson. And of course, the Woodrow Wilson thing is another romantic extortion, romantic fairy tale extortion from Mary Ellen Peck, with whom he was trysting with, and not married to. And she was also a divorcee of one of his colleagues over at Princeton University. So, and this is what the Supreme Court is made of. So I don't know that if these ingredients...
What's your clock say, Gene?
The clock is 9:12, so I'm timed out. Okay.
The wrist. The wrist is much better, but the wrist has a long, long way to go. It is absolutely sacrilegious to ruin anything as beautifully created by God as a wrist. So please be very careful. Hi there, folks. How are you today? Just miserable, right? And how are you, Miss Katie? Oh, you're hungry as usual. This is program 2723. That's quite a few public access programs. It started in 1972 or 3. And here is a question for you. You leaving us, Miss Katie? Why do firemen have a Dalmatian dog? Why do firemen have a Dalmatian dog? So the dog can go ahead in front of them and find the fire hydrant. And what did the judge say to the dentist? What did the judge say to the dentist? Do you swear to pull the tooth, the whole tooth, and nothing but the tooth? Now, the man came into the haberdashery and he said to the owner, "May I try on that navy blue suit in the window?" And the owner said, "No, you'll have to use the dressing room." And a little boy said to his buddy, "They are not going to grow bananas any longer." And his buddy says, "Really? Why?" And the little boy says, "They're long enough already." And what happens, folks, when ducks fly upside down? They quack up. I would like to have you know that on the program that exposed William J. Giacomo, a judge in Portchester, to be what he is, a liar, a thief, a cheat, and a traitor to the United States of America, violating citizens' rights of due process, and doing it through lies, that program was cablecast, but there was no audio. You begin to suspect something? Okay. Well, Cablevision's just going to have to cablecast that program over, and they're going to have to make sure it has audio, and they're going to have to do a make-good. Now, if any of you folks ever catch Cablevision doing that again, or Giacomo doing that again, you must let me know so that we can rectify it. Okay? That is out and out censorship, and it's certainly actionable. Continuing the landlord-tenant fight and standing up for Americans' rights, we have here a thing called the MCI bill. Now, this is not a telephone company. MCI stands for Major Capital Improvement. Well, any landlord can go out and do a perfunctory so-called improvement on his property, and then he can make the tenants pay for it. John Porzio did that. He put in a new furnace, and then the tenants had to pay something like $26 a month to pay for that furnace over many years. So are you tired of paying forever for building-wide improvements? Are you angry that landlords can make unnecessary improvements just to jack up rents? Then join with tenants and neighbors to win passage of legislation to stop this ripoff. For more information, please call Tenants and Neighbors. Tenants and Neighbors is the name of the association that protects tenants against greedy landlords. Tom Waters is the name of the person at Tenants and Neighbors who will help you. And here is his telephone number: 212-695-8922. Okay? Tom Waters. And also, Tenants and Neighbors is organizing a campaign to win enactment of Senate Bill 4988, Goodman, Assembly Bill 4508, Sanders. Under current law, landlords get permanent rent increases for rent-controlled and rent-stabilized apartments by making major capital improvements, requiring tenants to keep paying for new windows, boilers, and roofs long after the landlord has recovered all costs, and that is unfair. So, you must contact your state senator and tell him to pass, or her, the MCI reform bill. Contact your state senator to pass the MCI reform bill, and also your state representative. First order of business. The second one is Funeral Planning Association. I belong to that Funeral Planning Association because I believe that funeral directors attack people at a very vulnerable time of their lives, for instance, when their mother dies. Or for instance, I should say when, like, your mother dies or your father dies. And then they jack up a bill to $7,500 funeral costs, saying that it's necessary, and you don't know the difference, and they say it's state law, and it isn't state law at all, and you can take care of a poor deceased body very, very soon and without stress by planning your own funeral. You sit down, you can call funeral directors and go for this rip-off if you want to, and get their prices. And they have to give you the prices over the phone, or you can go see them. But you must take time to do that and to plan your own funeral. And there are books on it, and there are memorial societies all over on it. You must join a memorial society, or you can do it on your own, and let your family know exactly what you want to happen the day you die. And you'll find out that you can get through with this, I think, as low as $200 or $300 or $400, and you will not be ripped off for $7,500 for something that really doesn't count. People go up to a casket and say, oh, he looks so good. Well, he doesn't look good. He's dead. And so this thing has to be faced. And let's see if I can find you the telephone number of the Funeral Planning Society, or Funeral Consumer Information Society in Westchester. I'm sure there's one in Nassau, and I'm sure there's one in Los Alamos, and in Santa Fe, and in Portland, Oregon, and in West Seneca, the South Towns. Oh, there is a very good one, the Buffalo Memorial Society. Okay, the one in White Plains, the telephone number to call is 914-285-0585. He showed a very funny videotape of a rip-off funeral director operation. It was really funny. I ought to try to get that and play it for you. Moving on, we have to tell you about Postal Clerk Larry. Postal Clerk Larry is at times very, very nasty to customers, insolent, abrasive, captious, recalcitrant, loud, and I put up with this for a number of years, and it's a long story, and I wrote 6 pages about it, and I wrote it to the Sam Winters, who is the Postmaster General and the CEO of the United States Postal Service, and to the person in charge of the United States Postal Service. I wrote it to the person in charge of the Westchester Postal District, and I wrote it to White Plains Postmaster, Rebecca Agostini, and I wrote it to the supervisor of the counter clerks, Rita. This has to stop. A postal customer has to be treated with respect. And we've spent, Franklin gave me the figures, I think it was something like $5,000 in the post office. We go in there 2-3 times a week. And there's just no way to treat a $5,000 customer. Next bulletin is that we have added, the United States District Court, District of Delaware, still has before it my case, Glendora versus Kasari, and Kasari's family, Ishvan Jr., Gabor, Agnes, and Ilona, and also against Preston Scher, a New Rochelle judge, and another New Rochelle judge, Gail Rice, a court officer there, and the court clerk of the court there, Generoso. We have a case against them to evict Kasari. We ended up evicting Kasari and to evict him from this country and return them all to Hungary because of the laws they come to America and break. That is not right. And citizens have protections against people like that, and I've asked the United States District Court to exercise those protections. Now, added to that list is another liar for hire named Edward A. Fry, a lawyer. And, oh yes, Barone, of course. Nicholas P. Barone is in the first group. And Francis X. Nicolai, who is the administrative judge of County of Westchester, Supreme Court and Criminal Court, and his law clerk, Tommy Berg, and William J. Giacomo, and William Pierce, the Marshal of the City of White Plains, and the Department of Public Works, excuse me, Marshal for the City of White Plains is Sonny Katz. Pierce is the Marshal for the City of New Rochelle, and the Director of Public Works for the City of New Rochelle. I have asked the United States District Court to add all of those people as defendants, and the claims against them are the same claims that are against the other defendants, the first group of defendants, for violations of civil rights and of due process and of depriving a person of his/her property without due process of law. The Fifth Amendment to the Constitution of the United States and the 14th, and also the Bill of Rights for the Constitution of the State of New York. These people are cheating tenants daily, apparently, and we have to stop that, and they have to know that they're not going to get away with it. So they have been added as defendants. The proxy statement. Folks, do you know that you have manufactured billionaires? Yes, you have made billionaires. And we are reading you the proxy statement, and last week we got up to page 2. And here is, they're talking about electing KPG as their accountants, as their independent accountants. Well, folks, can you tell me how accountants can be independent if they're dependent upon the Dolans to be elected? And your vote is important, and we urge you to vote as soon as possible by telephone, internet, or mail. And Glendora says, why? Charles F. Dolan has all the power. Page 1, as we read to you last week. And this is signed by Robert S. Lemley, who is the Executive Vice President, General Counsel, and Secretary, and he refuses to show a shareholder the books, records, and minutes. And do you want to know why? So now, we are up to, this was written on Memorial Day. We're up to page 3, and this is page 4, the contents. And it says that the director compensation, Glendora says to this, justify the greed. And the board committees, Glendora wants to go to the next board meeting. And proposal 2, ratification of appointment of independent accountants. That's a lie. Accountants cannot be independent. Glendora wants a sworn statement from these accountants. Proposal 3, shareholder proposal regarding independent directors. In other words, we should have directors on the board who are non-Dolans and non-Dolan friends. Glendora recommends a vote of yes on this. And the executive compensation, compensation committee report, executive compensation tables, and to that you know that greed is written all over their faces. Why won't they show the a shareholder the books, records, and minutes, and what crime are they covering up? And so we've already dealt with the fact that the Dolan and the Dolan family own enough shares to elect all of the Class B directors. Well, I got a lot to tell you about the Class B directors, the annual meeting. How, for the first time, I think I'm the first one who ever demanded to see the list of Class B directors. I saw them. The list of Class B directors. I wonder if I should tell you that now or no, I'll do that when I report to you on the annual meeting. Very, very, very troublesome about the Class B directors list. And how proxies work. I covered that last week. In fact, we will move on to page 3. This is page 3. The board recommends you vote for each of the following candidates, and Glendora recommends that you do not. The directors to be elected by Class A stockholders are Charles D. Ferris, who was a former commissioner of the Federal Communications Commission, and he's the one who said that, he said to me, quote, "I'll put my money on Glendora any day." Richard H. Hockman, and Victor Orestano, and the comment here is, do the receptionists downstairs know who Mr. Orestano is? I judge that he doesn't go to very many board meetings, because when he came in last year, the receptionist didn't know who he was and wasn't going to let him in. Vincent Tees, Allied Waste Industries, that's a good name for Cablevision, and is out of Rico. And he was chairman of Cross County Wireless, and he served as on the New York State Urban Development Corporation, and that's good. Franklin reported on the same for the Buffalo News. Directors to be elected by the Class B stockholders, this means entirely by Charles Dolan. Shareholders really have nothing to say about this. This is what we've got going here. It is not a public company, it is a family company. Directors to be directed by Class B, elected by Class B stockholders. Charles Dolan, 73. I think he's only 72, the same age I am. And they keep calling it the general partner of the company's predecessor. Who was the predecessor? What was the name of the company's predecessor? What is being coming up here? What is being covered up here? What did the company's predecessor do that they want the name scrubbed? And home box office in 1971, well, that was with Jerry Levin, and he called it Manhattan Cable Television, but it wasn't. It was Sterling Manhattan Cablevision. And he's the father of James L. Dolan, Patrick F. Dolan, and Thomas C. Dolan, all directors. And here's a blurb about James L. Dolan, who is now the president and CEO. They finally filled the position of president. The last president they had was Colfault, James Colfault. And as soon as Glendora's program was taken off of the TV illegally, James Colfault was fired, and he ended up in North Carolina. And he never answers the telephone. And also Charles Dolan is the father of Deborah and Mary Ann and several other Dolans, whose address is given as 1111 Stewart Avenue, Bethpage, and you go there and ask for them. They are never there, and the receptionists have never seen them there. So that's another lie. William J. Bell. Glendora rang the wrong bell in 1993. There's another William J. Bell. And Robert S. Lemley, he runs away from Glendora. Now what is there here? This is all they tell you about these people. Now on the basis of this, as a shareholder, folks, could you vote for them to be directors? No. There's not enough information there. Sheila A. Mahoney, she's the only woman on the board. Thomas C. Dolan, Patrick F. Dolan, John Tata. There again they say the of the company's predecessor without giving the name, and they call it Manhattan Cable Television when it was Sterling Manhattan Cablevision. And Daniel E. Somers is the new pick from AT&T. And then we expressed exuberance that we got rid of John C. Malone and the murder of public access, 20 municipalities in Westchester. And we got rid of his henchman, Leo Hendry. And there is not enough information here to inform the electorate. And are you going to, a question we asked them, are you going to sell Cablevision Systems Corporation to AT&T? Are you purposely public access unfriendly to please public access unfriendly AT&T so they will give you an extra billion? That is a Bob Goldberg hypothesis. Now, the directors, folks, get $30,000 a year just to be a director at Cablevision. And go to a few board meetings, if at all. And $1,000 per board a year if you're a committee chairman. And you get $500 for going to, oh, you get $1,000. Maybe you don't get, maybe you don't, then maybe you don't get, if you're a committee chairman, maybe you don't get extra money. But you get $1,000 for every board meeting you go to. And of course all of your expenses paid too, and put up in a lush hotel. And $500 for every telephone conference that you have. Now, greed is written all over their faces. Can you possibly tell how they could justify that? And then all of their stock options, 5,000 shares and 20,000 shares. And what are these shares worth? Well, they're worth about $40 now. And so they get them at $5 or $6 a share, and then they go out and sell them for $40 a share. So how do you like that for greed and ripoff and chicanery? And how much does this all add up to in dollars for a director? How long do you have to work to get $30,000? How hard do you have to work? How much transportation to work do you have to pay your own? How much insurance do you have to pay? Yeah. So board committees, the board does not have a nominating committee. Well, you really don't need a nominating committee because that's Charles Dolan. All he does is nominate more and more and more and more and more and more Dolans. this is why the auditors are not independent. The audit committee is responsible for assisting the board of directors in its oversight of the company's accounting and financial reporting principles and policies, and internal audit controls and procedures in its oversight of the company's financial statements and the independent audit of those statements, and in its selection, evaluation, and retention of outside auditors. So this is why they are not independent auditors. Isn't it so, folks? Yes. Committee members are Messrs. Oristano, Chairman, Hockman, and Tees. And how many of these came to the meetings? Then you have the Compensation Committee, and that represents the board in discharging its responsibilities with respect to the company's employee stock plans, and in doing so administers such plans with regard to, among other things, the determination of eligibility of employees, the granting of stocks, SARs, and or options. Ho ho, he he, ha ha. Glendora wants to attend all of the next meetings, and they will not let a shareholder attend the board meetings. Does it sound to you like a company that's owned and operated by shareholders, when a shareholder isn't allowed to go to any board meetings or any committee meetings? The Executive Committee. Glendora says all about these committees, like the Compensation Committee. They decide how much money James is going to get, and they decide how much Charles is going to get, and they won't be on the board at all unless Charles and James and the other Dolan say they're going to be on the board. Okay, so when they decide the compensation, what do you think that is? What's the word for that? You're right, it's incestuous. Other committees. In addition to standing committees, the Board of Directors from time to time convenes a special committee in accordance with the company's bylaws to consider any proposed investment in or advance to Charles Dolan, members of his family, and trusts for the benefit of his family members. Now, have I told you that this is not a public company? This is a family company. And or companies controlled by any of them. Our stockholders' agreement with AT&T Corporation allows AT&T to appoint 2 of the 4 members of the special committee. I say that's scandalous. Okay? We are up to page 6, and that will be the limit for today. Proposal 2, item 2 on the proxy card, ratification of KPMG LLP as independent accountants. Glendora says that's a misrepresentation. And Glendora, at the annual meeting, asked the people from KMPG to arise. And one did. I said, isn't there another? And the other one got up very slowly afterwards, as if he didn't want to. And I asked them to swear under penalty of perjury if the papers were telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. The answer was eyes, and one did. I said, isn't there? And here is the shareholder proposal. Whereas we believe that the Board of Directors has fundamental responsibility to foster the company's long-term success, to enhance shareholder value, and to represent the interests of all of the shareholders. Yes, all of them, not just the Dolans. Whereas to the best fulfill these responsibilities, a substantial majority of the board should be composed of independent directors. An independent director being one who is not a present or former employee of the company and other than stock ownership, has no significant personal or financial tie to the company or management, that in fact or appearance could compromise the director's loyalty to the shareholders. That's what we need. Whereas Cablevision's board structure and composition raises serious questions about the board's capacity to act independently of management if necessary, meaning, of course, Dolan's. Resolved that the shareholders request that the company adopt and communicate to shareholders a policy to reconfigure the board of directors so that a substantial majority of directors are independent and the board has audit, compensation, and nominating committee that consists entirely of independent directors. I say vote for that, don't you? And non-Dolans. Shareholders supporting statement. Of the 14 current directors, 7 are current executives of the company. 1 is a former executive who serves as a consultant to the company. That's Tata. I don't know how he earns $400,000 a year doing that. And 2 are designated by a major shareholder by virtue of a shareholder agreement with the company. That would be AT&T. Only 3 of the directors appear to be independent by the definition of independence used in this resolution. We believe insider control of the board is sustained in part by the company's dual-class stock structure, which entitles insiders to elect 3/4 of the directors. The board lacks an independent nominating committee and has a compensation committee that is not composed only of independent directors. We believe an independent board is an essential component of any effective corporate governance system. An independent board can best represent all shareholders